series. But however, we're going to start off here on Control Center on Lijiang Tower. That means both teams, of course, will be bringing out those Reinhardt compositions. We'll see a big clash in the middle of the server room, you would expect. Some teams, you know, they have recently been deciding to go onto the point as well.
I would also like to mention for Anakin, Samurai, and Sabagard, they are very familiar with Hong Kong Attitude, having played against him in OPC Season 1, but it is the very fast and very serious, I wanted to say furious in there too, and I might as well, composition from Hong Kong Attitude just barreling through, meeting Cyclops Athlete Gaming in their own spawn, CAG. How are they still stuck in their spawn? They should have been able to walk out.
That's very interesting. CAG sort of being the willow tree there, willing to bend but not break, and they fall all the way back and manage to get the first pick. So there's actually an interesting strategy that's worked out for them.
Well, they've certainly been quite patient, and they've been rewarded rather with their patience with that quick cap point, but Hong Kong Attitude now responding. It's a ting, it's 10-10, it's also Macau, and it's enough to push Cyclops Athlete Gaming over. It's been a quick cap, but a quicker response from Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, that first pick bought them a little bit of space. They managed to make it out of their choken onto the point, but after that, Hong Kong Attitude regrouped, and they have now found themselves in the superior position. They don't have as much ult charge on the Xayah or the Reinhardt though, so these guys both going to be looking for that first Earth Shatter, first Graviton Surge, the kind of ultimates that can really turn a fight around.
Samurai is under some pressure right now. Cyclops Athlete Gaming do find themselves in familiar ground. That being said though, the Earth Shatter does swing, and with it, a lot of Hong Kong Attitude members flat on their backs. Even trades, the Samurai does come back into play courtesy of a resurrection from Eclair. The Cyclops Athlete Gaming now pushing their way through back onto the camp. Hong Kong Attitude sucker punched on the side with that Earth Shatter, and Samurai does not stop there, cleans up 2 more kills.
Yeah, the Earth Shatter really spelled the end of Hong Kong Attitude's hold on the point there, and CAG now coming through with a Graviton Surge, a Riptire, a Dragon Strike. So many opportunities, so many options for them to find a combo here with this Graviton Surge, as we see Hong Kong Attitude back off and split up, trying to stay away from this Riptire. 10-10 in the end will just bring it down.
The good news is for Cyclops Athlete Gaming, despite not getting kills with the Riptire, forcing Hong Kong Attitude back in the base is still good. Now here comes the combo. This one is far more successful. Easy clap, Cyclops Athlete Gaming, 2 ultimates used, 4 kills picked up, and the remaining members of Hong Kong Attitude attempting to hide back away inside that spawn room. No luck for Macau though, and Hong Kong Attitude have been stuck now in this same spot for at least 2 fights in a row.
Yes, obviously the big thing here is Hong Kong Attitude don't have a Zenyatta, so as soon as that combo comes out, they don't have the Transcendent to be able to counter it. They've gone for this Roadhog instead, and unless they've got the sound barrier up from CQB, they're not going to be able to do anything when they get sucked into that.
Zenyatta on the other side will do exactly what Hong Kong Attitude have been missing out on, which is that Transcendence. Does get pushed away by Shylin, does get punished and killed by Shylin, but the hits are pretty even for the time being. Claire, so with that Valkyrie, has decided not to use it for the time being. And for Hong Kong Attitude starting to cap away on this point, and they need to get it soon because we're approaching the 90% mark for CAG. Trapped Hog is not the kind of hog you want to see if you're Hong Kong Attitude right now, and it's not going too good for them as the Dragon Strike will attempt to find some members, and maybe the cap finally comes through. A moment of relief for Hong Kong Attitude.
Well, we've got a team with the Earth Shatter here. Samurai doesn't have his up. He's 50% away, and well, a response to the Graviton Surge is for a team to bring down the hammer, but it doesn't really matter. So many of his teammates get cleaned up by that. They're still in control of the point for the moment, but it's just, it's the barest remains of them. They've got Mango Giant and Macau really trying to make something happen here, but oh! Cyclops cannot manage to flip the point, so it's going to keep ticking up for Hong Kong Attitude here. Well,
it is the clutch coalescence from Mango Giant that has kept this Hong Kong Attitude defense somewhat alive for the time being anyway. That aliveness is starting to teeter away, as does that overtime ticker. Samurai with the Earth Shatter once again attempting to find some members onto the back line. Not too sure if it was really successful. What is very successful is going to be the Riptire, is going to be the Graviton Surge, and the Dragon Strike coming out in the last second from Macau, going to do nothing for this point for Hong Kong Attitude. 100 to 79, a valiant effort from both sides, but it is CAG in command of the lead.
Despite Xiaolin having some really great points on that Roadhog, I don't think throughout the whole point you can say that it was worth it not having that Zenyatta. I mean, there was one point, right, where he got 2 or 3 picks by himself and effectively turned the fight around. Now, sure, a Zenyatta can do that. It would be a little bit harder because he sustained himself for so long with the take a breather, but you know, the combos, that's where you really need that third healer, or at least you need a Zenyatta with the Transcendence ready to go, and not having it there just showed through, and I think that's why CAG managed to come out on top.
So you have that lead now. We're going to see Depp on the Tracer, Anakin onto the Pharah, so mostly dive composition with aerial support. Hong Kong Attitude are going to be playing mostly a ground-based composition. The only real counter to Anakin going to come out of Macau Storm Arrows. And Hong Kong Attitude not going to waste too much time heading straight for that point, and Anakin smacked out the sky by 10-10. Forgot to mention the Diva also does quite a bit of work. And Cyclops Athlete Gaming going to need to do more work if they want to wrest control back in their favor.
Yeah, so Hong Kong happy to stick with this same sort of position here, so this same sort of composition, and Anakin is going to be switching over from the Pharah now to the Junkrat and seeing how that goes for him. They've obviously lost the first lost position on the point, which means the tanky composition of Hong Kong Attitude is just going to be able to sit at the choke and absorb a lot of damage. Another switch, Anakin. He really can't make up his mind. He's back onto the Pharah now, I guess hoping that he can get a concussive blast. Seeing as Ating is so far forward, that's actually a very dangerous place for a Reinhardt to be.
Well, what he's realizing here is that with the range damage, he can just pepper down at the ground-based members. I say pepper down, but Macau's got a bit more spikes on that one. Anakin res back in. Coalescence now from Mango Jai is going to look to seal the deal in this fight for CAG all the way back to their spawn room right now. We spent a lot of time at each respective team's spawn room across Lijiang Tower, and Hong Kong Attitude don't want to change that tempo up, not just yet. 40% now in the lead.
Yep, another change, and I think this is just something of the meta at the moment, where you can switch to a sniper and then just have an instantaneous effect, and that's why, well, Deppy went on to the Hanzo for a second, now he's decided to go for the Tracer instead. These guys have really got to work out how they want to take out Hong Kong's Attitude's beefy composition. As they go across the bridge, they're probably going to have to deal with the Dragon Strike. Macau managed to find a nice shot onto the Pharah before. Can he do it again? Taking punish though, so there is entryway now as Macau and Tintin go down as well, and suddenly their front line broken open. Cyclops Athlete Gaming can enjoy the fleshy meat inside as Hong Kong Attitude now starting to fall by that wayside. Mango Jai dies before Coalescence is available. No Dragon Strike going to be even available because Macau was dead that entire time. And for CAG, all they had to do was wait for Hong Kong Attitude to get out of that bunker, come and get aggressive, reveal themselves, and then get punished. And at least they managed to leave it at 80%, so if they do lose the point once again, they might have another fight to get into it. They're going to go in immediately and just try and lay down all of these ultimates they've built up so quickly in the last fight. 2 ultimates going to come through for CAG, make it 4 actually. There's a lot being thrown into this. Hong Kong Attitude are probably just going to have to walk away battered and bruised, but not out of the fight because they did save a couple. I did say they're going to save ultimates, but now they're changing members, so what they did have an advantage is no longer the case. Hong Kong Attitude with the full compositional reset. Okay. Well, as I was saying before though, this isn't lost, right? Because they have the Widowmaker here. I mean, what do you say? A 1 kill is good for an ultimate sometimes? Sure, a Widowmaker can do that like 3 times in 10 seconds if you're good enough. Macau can take that Mercy and the Pharah out of the fight if she needs to. Macau's going to need to do that pretty soon, sooner rather than later, you'd have to say. Because Cyclops at the game about to catch up and perhaps even overtake that percentage marker for Hong Kong Attitude, who, while they had some lead to play with, that lead has all but withered away. They need to be able to fight onto the point now. It's pretty hot in here, and that lead is evaporating quickly, as you say. Sabagod shows he is the better Zenyatta, and it looks like they're just going to have to force their way onto the point as they do manage to get the res. So at least it's a 6v6 with Hong Kong Attitude trying to retake here. Hong Kong Attitude are attempting to push this fight onto the cap, which is definitely good for them, but CAG not going to be bothered here. They're not going to be stressed out about this moment. Speaking of, though, Mango Jai does feel the need to pop that Transcendence. You'd expect that
at the 99% mark. Hong Kong Attitude going to get somebody onto the point. Shailin going to try and be the hero here, but he's already dead. Macau, we see the headshot, but it comes in too late. CAG with the start. It's going to be a 2-0. It's going to be a 1-0 lead officially onto the scoreline with a 2-0 on Lijiang Tower. Making that statement, Hong Kong Attitude, they were in the game, but CAG, well, they're in it a little bit more.
Yeah, it was an impressive resolve there from CAG. They really managed to, you know, just take their time. They lost that first fight when they were having, you know, the really big tanky composition up against them, and they're just like, okay, how do we deal with this? They were going to go into dive. They made a couple of swaps on, especially on their DPS, and then eventually they just found their way onto the point. As you said, cracked the front line, surrounded them essentially, and a Reinhardt shield. Unfortunately, it only goes in one direction.
And for Hong Kong Attitude, they probably have wished that turned out a little bit different. 1-0 so far. It's not an insurmountable lead, but it does set the standard right now. As in the pre-game talk, we did sort of mention, or at least I was kind of mentioning on this side, that CAG, to me at least, feel like the team that do have an edge. And with a 1-0 lead, and certainly with a 2-0 performance on Lijiang Tower, you'd be able to say that edge is starting to really show itself in Hong Kong Attitude. Have the possibility of starting to bring this up throughout the series. You wouldn't expect a 3-0 or a 4-0 from CAG. Not in this type of matchup. You'd expect Hong Kong Attitude to be able to fight back somewhere along the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I really hope we get to see a match 5 here tonight. That would be very exciting and probably worthy of the teams, the two teams' performances throughout Contenders Season 2 so far. Now, next we'll be going on to Kings Row. I don't think we've had a series without it tonight, have we?
No, we've had a triple Eichenwalder the last night and now a triple Kings Row this night. So, different teams with different preferences, and Hong Kong Attitude's preference is to take us to London, and we'll see what kind of compositions teams want to run, because as was also mentioned in the pre-game talk, there is a reasonable amount of flexibility coming out from both sides. We also have a pretty stacked sub-roster as well. Mui on the sub-roster and coaching side for Hong Kong Attitude. Tayo, who we know is a very talented player, also on the sub side for CAG. We did see Tayo make his Contenders debut last week. They did unfortunately lose that one map, which I believe was Temple of Anubis, but we could still see if Tayo makes his return this week as well, because this entire CAG roster just doesn't seem to have any holes in it right now. All 7 members just seem to be holding their own weight and more.
Yeah, so I guess the best analog for what might happen looking forward to Kings Row is what we saw on Control Center. Okay, that's where we're going to see that sort of Reinhardt, Zaya pairing come into it. We saw there was lots of follow-up from the side of Cyclops Athlete Gaming there with, you know, the Dragon Strikes, the Riptires, that sort of thing. They were more than willing to hold those and combo with their Zaya player. Not so much on the side of Hong Kong Attitude, though.
And so we will see if that sort of happens for them. We've seen a decent amount of Reinhardt being played by Ting so far. So maybe that comes into effect once that map begins, and I do believe the map is ready to go now, so we don't have to wait too long to see how teams will be able to handle this new game mode of hybrid. Kings Row is, of course, going to be the map chosen by Hong Kong Attitude. And I think they're the ones right now that have the pressure to really perform on this map.
The interesting thing to note to see will be whether they go with the Zenyatta or the Roadhog again for Hong Kong Attitude. Obviously, Shailin feeling confident on this Hog pick, and no doubt he performed on it, but it's just more, how does it fit in with the team's context and their composition? I don't think it was a positive overall, regardless of his individual performance.
Let's head in and take a look at opening compositions here. In a second, there it is. And for Hong Kong Attitude, we'll talk about their comp first, because as the defenders, they look like they're already somewhat set up. Now, we've seen this already earlier tonight, where again, the goal here is you want to be able to play, first of all, there's only one healer, but the goal is you want to be able to play around the Orisa shield, have your main DPS players, Shailin and Macau, on the Junkrat and Widow protected, and here comes Dep to attempt to dislodge it with Concussive Blast. Can Hong Kong Attitude sustain themselves?
Well, at the very least, they'll start off with a nice pick onto Tayo, as he, I don't know if he maybe perhaps ran into a trap there that Shylin finished off with his concussive bomb there. Perhaps it was just damage boosted by the Mercy. Either way, Mikau actually gets caught out. So Sabagod, that's a good start for them, eliminating a large part of the DPS there from CAG.
The first part of the defense has kind of crumbled now. Now they're kind of back to the keep, as it were. Hong Kong Attitude forced back into the corner. Angles have been opened up for Cyclops Athlete Gaming, and Sabagod, who found that opening pick, is going to look for more. Not satisfied with just one. This man's a hungry hog, finding perhaps Claire onto CQB rather. Not going to be the case this time around. Even trades so far in this opening engagement.
Yeah, it's a little bit back and forth so far. I see Tayo around the back trying to get rid of that Mercy, but CQB able to sustain enough to get the Valkyrie out, which is really going to allow those tanks to push forward. The extra healing there, well, I say extra healing, or maybe extra damage, as CQB gets a little bit angry there and pulls out the pistol. So they do manage to sustain, and now they've managed to put the Orisa shield even further forward. Perhaps if they're lucky and they've got time, they might even be able to get back up onto that top ground stronghold.
We know that the kind of weakness here is that if CQB dies as the Mercy player, that's all the healing gone. Tayo, that's a self-kill, I believe. He threw a pulse bomb out, died to his own pulse bomb. Be quite happy that we didn't catch that one on camera. We still know what happened though, so unfortunately for Tayo, that's gonna have to live with that. What Cyclops Athlete Gaming are going to be able to live with is this opening pick on both the Ting and Mango Giant. Suddenly, 2 tanks down. Tayo gets himself another kill to CQB as well. No more healers for Hong Kong Attitude. I think this is lights out.
Yep, that'll be the first point going over to Cyclops Athlete Gaming there. A good take. Hong Kong Attitude managed to, hold out for a little while. I like their rotations throughout the point, the fact that they will be able to make a home down the bottom behind the post office and really hold out from all the pressure coming out from Tayo on the Tracer in the background. You've got to give some love to CQB there for that, especially when he's the only healer on the team.
Well, he's been joined now by Mango Jai, swapping freshly onto the Zenyatta, and I know you desperately wanted to see some of that on Lee Chung Tower. Well, Mango Jai is going to oblige that. Yeah, Cyclops Athlete Gaming now pushing through 4 ultimates in hand. Infrasight popped out by Depp, giving Tayo some much needed information for where he wants to put this pulse bomb. Does miss, so not going to find anything there. They're going to look for a Ting onto the side, but possibly not the 1v1 he really wants, because Hong Kong Attitude have feet on this point, and while they have feet on this point, it means CAG are not going to be pushing it. Ting finally going down.
Yeah, that pulse bomb from Tayo was really the opportunity to open that up for his team. Luckily, the rest of them have got more than something to say about that. We see Sabagod pushing through with the whole hog, and a Halt even going to try and make sure Shylin doesn't get away. CQB's been found out by Tayo, who's seemed to have spent the entire map so far pretty much in the back lines and just dealing with Hong Kong Attitude, making sure that they can't hide from it.
Being as annoying as possible and being as threatening as possible, and Mikau right now is certainly being threatened down for the count. Tayo makes sure of that. Cyclops Athlete Gaming now very close to finishing this B push. Hong Kong Attitude freshly changed onto a shield-based composition. Ryan and Zaya. Pulse Bomb not going to have a lot of effect this time around. Ting still goes down anyway though. So maybe you'll say Tayo's Pulse Bomb actually did do the job. Both of those shield tanks are already down, and with that the cap goes through.
Ooh, Tayo just getting a little bit greedy at the end. He is going to have the shield from his Orisa though, and then the res come through from Claire to bring him back into it. So he's still on fire, and he's still got a chance to make a difference in this next fight. Kenmo Hiroho got the Dragon Strike ready to go there. There's lots of good opportunities and angles for him to push this through on the 3rd point.
A lot less opportunities when you did though, and Tayo's going to join him in the grave, at least for now. Sabagod taking a bit of a dive down the end. The writing was on the wall there. Cyclops Athlete Gaming not going to commit additional ultimates, and now Hong Kong Attitude stabilize onto the C point. A lot of changes coming through for CAG.
Yeah, that fight was pretty much over before it started, wasn't it, Mikau? No, he's not going for the Tracer. He will go for the Widowmaker. So he's going to be on the defense there. Up double snipers, probably just trying to be terrorizing CAG from the high ground here, as we do see Tayo lunging into the fight.
Depth's already making work of this Widow pick so far, finds his counterpunch to back line. Valkyrie from Claire as well, just to ensure that this push does in fact continue to dissuade Hong Kong Attitude from attempting to push in. And with the resurrection comes another death, and with death comes more death for Hong Kong Attitude. Double support ultimates were available, double support ultimates not used. And for that, Hong Kong Attitude forced back into their base as the cut continues to push.
So now the question is, can Mango Jai bring his team back to the cart with that Transcendence? A Venom Mine actually lets Depp know which side that the Reinhardt is going to come from, and a couple of quick hit kills here from CAG mean that this is going to be so hard for HKA to hold on to.
Especially because the team's now down, Earthshatter not going to be up in time. In general, the plays are not going to be up in time. Now, the double support ultimates did get used eventually, but to no avail. CAG were not going to be stopped. They saw the win in Psych 212 for the time back. Very respectable. Only a couple times CAG was seriously stopped up, a couple times on that A push. B was basically mostly a CAG affair. Going into the C point, they did have to lose a push, get a full compositional swap, which did also slow them down. They lost a chunk of ultimates for that, but ultimately not going to matter too much because CAG had that win in sight and they were determined to get it.
Yeah, it just really felt like that last fight or two could have gone a completely different way had Hong Kong Attitude used their support ultimates a little more judiciously. Mango Jai, I mean, they didn't need to even layer them as they were coming out there. Really, all they needed was one or the other to help them get onto the point. And I think they rushed it a little bit as well. They sort of rushed onto the point, and you know, the Reinhardt maybe didn't have his shield up enough. They just get poked down because of that, and then it doesn't matter how many support ultimates you've got. They're just raining terror. The double snipers pulling out enough of the headshots to take them down before those support ultimates can do enough healing to keep them in it. So what should have been a much longer stall phase there from Hong Kong Attitude really goes begging, and 2 minutes and 12 seconds is what CAG has left over.
And I certainly will put a bit of regret into the minds of Hong Kong Attitude in terms of what could have been on that defense. But as we now look towards the future, Hong Kong Attitude have to consider how they're going to approach this attack. Because the defense is over, and now they have the difficult task of finishing the map themselves, and possibly with greater time if they can help it.
Yeah, the pressure's starting to build up a little bit now for Hong Kong Attitude, losing a map and ceding all 3 points here on King's Row. They know that there's not many opportunities left for them if they want to stay in this series. Once again, we're seeing the single Mercy composition. The Hog actually misses the hook here, so this gives an opportunity for Hong Kong Attitude to get onto the point.
A little bit disappointing for Sabagard, but still though, it's still a reasonably well-held defense considering that Hong Kong Attitude is still just kind of looking for positioning right now, searching inside the hotel for a potential angle to work with. Now back into the mix, onto the point, approaching this corner. Mango Jai as almost the third DPS technically, looking for attention onto the back line, but we are seeing an equal trade, which does ultimately work in the favor of Hong Kong Attitude eventually. And now things are starting to go more or less into their favor. It seems like CAG do not have feet onto this point anymore. They do not have a stable defense. Hong Kong Attitude have dismantled them.
Yeah, I really like how they've utilized the Doomfist in this composition. You saw Mikau just relentlessly going for Samurai on the Orisa there. This means that Claire has to focus her healing on that anchor point, because otherwise they're just getting ticks all the time, right? The Orisa needs to be down there. And of course, with the Mercy Beam focusing on the main tank, all of the rest of Cyclops Athlete Gaming were just open to get killed by Hong Kong. They won those duels, and as a result, they get the first point.
This is a bit of a tricky place for HKA to be in, because consider that CQB is the only healer. He's also the one pushing the cart right now, so everybody else, all 5 other members who are not healers, decided to get quite aggressive, which is fine, and all the teams will do that, but you need to be very considerate of your own life, and they did lose a member. Mango Jai now swapping onto the Zenyatta, relieving some of the healing duties for CQB. Big ultimates online and available as well. Infrasight from Depp. It's going to reveal how Hong Kong Attitude want to approach. And Hong Kong Attitude want to approach very quickly, very decisively. Shailin with the blade finally finds a target in Kemba Hororo, but now immediately has to put that blade away. This is now multiple ultimates being contested and used. Depp gone down to the Meteor Strike. Oh
now,
boy.
He cannot grapple out of the way of that one. Mikal finds him with the Doomfist ultimate. A team bouncing off Claire's head like some kind of Goomba, and it looks like Hong Kong Attitude have done enough now to push through and get through this very troublesome choke point sometimes for the attackers. That's one down, and they've still got the T-junction to go here for point 2. Mikal actually going to stay on this Doomfist. So interesting that even without the 3 DPS composition, AVRL, they really want to stick on that as the secondary DPS.
He's doing a decent amount of damage, and I'm going to say it works wonders against Depp as well. He's on the Brigida, and I don't think Brigida plays into Doomfist very well. A team with the flank, going to look for targets to open things up for this next section of Hong Kong Attitude's push right now, but there's going to be a response from Samurai to note that he does have a Primal Rage, which he's all too happy to use onto the face of CQB, 1010 and Mango Jai. Not going to be too pleased with the result of that push from Cyclops Athlete Gaming, and it starts to beg the question of who's actually attacking right now, because it's CAG with the aggression.
Yeah, we're getting so far up in there, led by Samurai there on the Winston, who's doing a great job just cornering CQB on the Mercy. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. That even on Last Guardian Angel, I thought, oh, maybe CQB can get out there, but no, it wasn't to be. So they still have a couple of defensive ultimates as well here. So when Shaolin brings out that Dragon Blade, he's going to have to worry about whether Sabagod is in range to heal his teammates up through that Transcendence.
Those questions will need to be answered very quickly as well. 2 minutes 27 remaining for Hong Kong Attitude's attacking time. Note that they have to finish this whole map to at least force an overtime play, or rather a time bank play. They'd definitely be wanting to be able to reach that ultimates. Starting to come through, double tank ultimates for Hong Kong Attitude. A Ting, though, that Primal Rage didn't last long enough for him to be able to be kept alive, and finally Mango Giant with the Transcendence. The Ting gets res back in, so players still alive, play still available. And for CAG, we're wondering where is the response. Rally finally being used by Depp, still holding on to a Transcendent. Sabagod waiting for the right moment to strike. Depp finds his right moment to strike. The Ting smacked out of the map, and for Hong Kong Attitude, no chance for a rocket barrage from Macau. Looking to potentially save this for the next fight, but there's not a lot of next fights left remaining.
It's a game of chicken at the moment. Shaolin and Sabagod just waiting for the other one to press the button first so they can counter it or get around it. They both, you just saw Shaolin, he's just sitting at Saba's face. He may as well have been emoting and waving, because you could just see him every shuriken saying, come on, please, please give me the Transcendence before I have to use my Dragon Blade. And Macau, with that extra pressure they've got from above now, with the Pharah, there is no more Doomfist, as you can see. It's really helping them push back Cyclops Athlete Gaming every time they come in from the attack there. And you saw them give a lot of ground there, but eventually they did win.
Every time coming for the attack is also right now, Shaolin finally with that blade. But as was prophesied, Sabagod did have the Transcendence ready to go. Very astute and disciplined of him to not have used that early until he needed it. Macau still has the weapon though, picks up a counter tire, but where is the barrage? That is what we need to see if this push is going to be completed by Hong Kong Attitude. Clear now, Valkyrie on the opposite end. The defense still holding strong, but is it strong enough to live through this barrage? Yes, it certainly is. Kemo Hororo makes short work of Macau there. And suddenly, for Hong Kong Attitude, can they have enough members to get this one across the line? Starting to get the advantage now. CAG losing members as we head close to that overtime mark of 15 seconds remaining to cap this B point. And I fear that even if Hong Kong Attitude, when they do eventually inevitably get this B point, how much time do they really have to get the next section done? Because it's not a lot.
Not very much at all. A minute 30. CQB playing with fire there, switching back and forth between the healing beams and the damage beams, just trying to egg his team over the line there. And almost sold out by Macau, actually, who dropped dangerously low. I thought he was going to go for the barrage, but all he really did was put CQB in harm's way. Luckily, Mango Jai had the Transcendence to bail him out as we go in once again.
Let's go again. As one of our very popular personalities would say in Tayo, it's raised back up again. Transcendence from Mango Jai to attempt to continue this push on through, and Shaolin will be all too happy to receive that extended healing as he collects himself 2 kills. Teammate Mango Jai post Transcendence to collect the third. And suddenly, 42 seconds still here. A reasonable amount of time, but it is also dangerous enough that you'd say for Hong Kong Attitude if they failed this push. they may not complete the map, and CAG might just have the ultimates to stop them.
That was an incredible effort there by Kenmo Hororo. Just stall the cart for that long. That should have been pushing. The cart should almost be in that golden rectangle by now, but somehow the Diva manages to stay alive and to stay on top of that cart for long enough for his teammates to come back in. It might be a 5v6 this time, but not for long.
CQB with the resurrection will certainly put the odds back in HKA's favor. CAG still have Kenmo Hororo self-destruct, but he needs to use it soon. It has to get the work done. It's got to be a big one, and I don't think it's going to be what CAG are looking for, because HKA are so close right now to finish this cap. Shylin nearly onto the blade. If he can live, it'll be good news for Hong Kong Attitude, and the news is starting to come in right now. What does the newspaper headline say? It says currently no kills, gets 1, gets 2. That should be the cap in overtime, but it still counts. We're gonna go to time bank.
Well, they did go on a bear hunt, and they did find Samurai. Maybe a gorilla hunt, sort of less acceptable by
those animals are endangered.
Standard, yes. Look, let's not hunt any of them down, okay? As long as it's in Overwatch, just keep your hunting in there, fellas. Either way, they finally managed to get all 3 points, but unfortunately, there is $0 left in the bank for these guys, and well, the Japanese team looking pretty rich here with 2 minutes and 12 seconds themselves.
If they can get this win, they would be on a match point already. A 2-0 lead would be crazy good. And you'd say 2 minutes 12 should be enough time to get this 1/3 cap that they would need to close out the series. The best that Hong Kong Attitude can do now as the reward for finishing the map in overtime, and I guess also the penalty for finishing the map in overtime, is that they need to hold the entire duration of 212 for that 1/3 tech of 33.3%. And if they do, well, it's going to be a draw, and that's the best that HKA can hope for.
Yeah, wow, even having some last-minute jitters here. 10-10 is actually going to be a little bit out of position as the Roadhog comes in. It doesn't look like they're going to be set up on the high ground. I wonder what was behind this. Some miscommunication, perhaps? Surely they didn't want to start from the point. I guess maybe they have to, because obviously they can't give up that first tick, right? So they can't stand up the top.
I'd say you're probably right there. I'd say that Hong Kong Attitude definitely would not be too comfortable starting to the low ground. That being said, though, they would be comfortable getting an opening pick, which is something that they are able to collect. Can't res that one either because you're in the line of fire. 10-10 finds his second hook of the game. It's really got to put a damper on that CAG push.
CAG here, we said Depp was one of the guys we had our eyes on going into this. He needs to find one of those opening picks on the Widowmaker. All the meanwhile, his shields from Samurai are getting just chunked down here by Xiaolin and 10-10, just blasting away with shrapnel and grenades here. We do see a pick onto the Hanzo though. Ooh, this could be the opening.
Yeah, we've seen an opposite pick come through as well, and note that there's a solo healer on the CAG side, so they can't have these fights go for too long. They need to end this quickly, both for the sake of the time remaining, but also the fact that their composition requires it. That's the pulse bomb, but the fortify already came out, so Ting took reduced damage, not reduced against Kenmo Hororo, though, who did get that clean up kill, and suddenly one tick required to clean up this point. You'd think that CAG could do this. You'd think that Hong Kong Attitude certainly can hold on. Attire might change the mind of CAG, but can it be the remaining tanks here, the remaining DPS? Tire is still in the mix. It's just going to be Mango Jai, the solo Zenyatta with one other member, one less member now. Depp with the headshot. Certainly, this has to be the finish line. Ting cannot last in this environment, neither can his teammate 10-10. And for CAG, it is now imminent. Soon enough, the cap comes through. A 2-0 lead for the Japanese squad.
Oh man, the Transcendence helping the Junkrat try and fly in and just dump grenades on Kenmo Hororo in the air. It doesn't pay out, unfortunately, and they do manage to find the win. So 2 up now, CAG. They are 1 map away from, being in the box seat to take out #1 seed in Group B.
And on a technicality, with 2 maps to 0 in this series, they would already be in the lead if this match was over, but it's not quite over just yet, right? Because still the potential for Hong Kong Attitude to come back in. What is left though? Because that was a very difficult map for Hong Kong Attitude. Better than Lijiang Tower, but still not good enough.
No, they are struggling at the moment, it seems. 3 points, it's a good effort, but obviously they get there in overtime, and it always feels bad. It feels really bad when you the other team gets a free attack, and you've got to be like, okay.
Feels worse if you don't finish the map.
I don't know about that, actually, because at least when you get to that position where you've got to defend 33%, it just feels inevitable. It feels hopeless, and you have to sit there and try nonetheless.
All right, well, let's see if we can turn that frown into a smile and a feels good man for Hong Kong Attitude. When we come back from the break, the title match of Week 3 will continue. Who's it going to be? The team from Hong Kong or the one from Japan? Things are heating up over on this side, so we'll see you on the other end of the break.